We'll answer those at the end of the podcast here. But first, proverb of the week, which I thought you would enjoy, knowing there's also interest rates drops again the last week. This is from Proverbs 22, verse 7. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is a servant to the lender. And just so you guys everyone know, we do one proverb a week when we chat about it.
What does that mean to you?
Just as the rich rule the poor, you're a slave to whoever you're indebted to.
Yeah.
You're in debt, you're a slave to that.
Yeah.
You're a slave. Most people are a slave to their debt, their mortgage, their house payments, all the toys they want to have.
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with debt in the sense that, and this is where, if I'm talking about real estate, often a lot of my close friends, people that know me well, will say, oh, you're a Debbie Downer. You're like, oh, it's never the right time to buy a house. It's, houses are overpriced. That's kind of a lot of, the blowback I get. But
which I think actually increases trust with you being a realtor saying that, because most
realtors are pumping tires. Best time to buy was 10 years ago, which it was, but I mean.
Or now, they'll say, just
right
buy
now, quickly, before the rates drop and the house price. And I mean, let's go back to the proverb of the week, and then we'll talk about interest, because I really, if I had to choose between talking about the proverb of the week or the interest.
You choose the interest rates?
I choose the interest rates. I'm a real loser, sorry.
So just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is a servant to the lender.
Yeah. I mean, proverbs are interesting in the sense that
they're not absolutes.
Well, we had a sermon about that, right? Pastor Matt did a good sermon when he preached on the suffering of Job, and he just did a really good job of kind of articulating, basically, you take some proverbs and then you move into the same guy wrote Ecclesiastes, right? And everything is meaningless, and it's like chasing the wind, and so you got to get that dichotomy a bit. But I do feel like debt is crushing. And so debt, ironically, at least in business or my experience, where I was going with that, I was going to say I have borrowed a lot of money in my life. I've had millions and millions of dollars of debt, especially like back probably 7 or 8 years ago. I owed a lot of money. And I think that timing is everything. And a friend of mine, a business guy, Alex, he always says, like, timing will make you or break you. And you don't get, and the beautiful thing about it is you don't get to take a lot of credit if you're successful. And if you do get crushed in a business deal, you don't need to wear it on your personal self. You just, at the end of the day, at least for me, that's how I look at it. It's like, hey, you know what? Nothing risked, nothing gained. If you don't really want, if you're,
and that's a good point. If you shouldn't wear the loss, you shouldn't wear the gain either.
No. And so I think, I feel like God's sovereign, and you know what? Some people are supposed to go broke.
God is what?
God's sovereign.
What does that mean?
It just means that he's fully in control. It means that he knows he has predestined things to happen, and we are very powerless. And I feel like we don't, if people are going to live like, everything they do, then you're taking a lot of credit. And like I said, we sure don't want to be taking credit. I would take zero credit for any of the things that I have. I think that it's been a gift, and I think that we just need to be stewards. So it's back to the debt thing.
You struggle with that though? Like you must have times that you feel like it's your smartness, or
I always feel like it's my responsibility, but even that's probably not healthy, where it's like, who am I to think that just if I work hard enough, or we're called to work hard. Those things are all separate. Yeah. We're called to work hard. We're called to not take on stupid amounts of debt. And the Bible would tell us that, you don't want to be slave to the lender. So, but does that mean you can't borrow any money? No. I feel like there's different places where you would borrow. I feel like even in your age, when you're younger, you could probably handle being a little highly leveraged because, you got good working years, you got a lot of energy, you got the capacity. Would it be wise for somebody who's
leverage on what matters too, though, right?
Well, cash producing assets. And if that doesn't make sense to you, Google it and figure it out. Don't be borrowing on things like depreciating assets like cars, and, drive a piece of crap if and that in our culture, that's countercultural. People just have a car payment, right? And there's probably times for that, if you're in a spot where you really can't afford a big repair, or, you can get a really interest-free loan, but, we're going to go into the environment now coming forward where the car dealerships will be giving you 0% again, or close to it.
Yeah, that's not.
Well, you're prepaying for it. I know, but it's the incentive, right? It's deceitful. Okay, that's the fair point. There's no such thing as a 0%.
Yeah.
When interest rates go really, really low, though, the benefit of paying cash is very minimal.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Because if the company is getting the debt, they'd rather take the margin. They'd rather make the margin on the product, right?
Yeah.
And just keep let.
But
you
if they're
have.
selling an $80,000 truck at 0%, and then
Somebody's paying for it.
someone's paying for it, because all of a sudden, if you can pay cash, it's 70,000.
That's not that common. It'd be interesting if we go back to that, but it has not been that way.
Fair enough. Yeah, but it's interesting because it reminds me of something I read yesterday. This is from Solomon, the smartest and richest guy that has ever lived. Well, maybe not richest anymore, but definitely smartest, wisest. Then I observed that most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors. But this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Fools fold their idle hands, leading them to ruin. So don't be lazy. But then it says, and yet, better to have one handful with quietness than two handfuls with hard work and chasing the wind. It's better just to have like a calmer life and not be like going full pull. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I guess that's really cool that you read that too. I think that's where anybody could get into trouble with scripture, where it's like if you cherry pick verses, you can defend you can defend a lot of things that are not biblical, right?
Yeah.
Because anything taken in isolation is dangerous. So context matters, and I think if somebody's in the Word all the time and all the Word, the Old Testament and the New Testament, you'll that would be wise. That would be prudent. Anyways, that is a great text, and I guess what I was going to finish off with is that in business, when we are in a low interest rate environment, which we're heading back to, we have
Are we actually? Because I actually thought about the government lowering rates as just like the government forcing the Bank of Canada to do that so they can buy votes. Like, do you think there's actually control and meddling going on there?
Probably is. It's disgusting. I don't know if people that watch our I don't know why people watch our podcast. So I mean, I don't. It's. I'm just being honest. I've had a few people tell me they won't, right? Or family, mostly my brother-in-law, and Jeremy Van Worden last night. But basically, couldn't take it. One episode, that was enough of Gary and Kyle. But the where I was going with that was if there probably is interference to some extent. I think probably more now than ever, because the government has the most debt of anybody, right? The Canadian government, provincial governments. At some point, we are going to have austerity as a province, as a city, as a country.
Austerity meaning
we are going to have governments that lay people off, that spend less than they make, that make hard choices. Like, talk to any family that's in personal financial trouble. At some point, there needs to be a change.
Yeah.
And unlike a government, as a general rule, at least in our, we're a G7 nation, cannot just declare bankruptcy. I mean, they do. There's governments that do. There's governments, there's whole plate things that have changed currencies and, whatever. But so at some point, we're going to have really hard times, and no government gets elected on the promise of hard times. So even now we have a conservative party promising, common sense and change and hacking and whacking. The hacking and whacking, he's not talking about the pain that's going to come, but it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, when you own a business and all of a sudden a bunch of people, maybe they work for the CBC, but if they're all getting fired, they're not going to have money to be coming to spend at your store like you normally do if you're a business owner. They're not going to be eating out at that local restaurant, right? Yeah. They're going to have to make hard choices. Or they're going to be competing for the job that you're in, and maybe they're willing to do it for less, which, I would argue creates a healthy economy. I believe in the free market. But the free...
Even for milk?
Even for milk. I'm fine with the communist system we have because I'm in it, but I mean, okay. I can understand that it would be challenging. Yeah. The only reason... Let's talk about supply management a minute. For those of you that don't know, that might have a few American listeners. In Canada, you have to have quota. It's very expensive to produce chicken meat, produce eggs, and to produce dairy milk.
Which means that if not anybody can just go buy cows and start milking cows.
They can, but you got to buy the quota. Yeah, you can't just buy the cows and start selling the milk. You get in deep trouble. And that's actually a whole nother issue I have.
And the price is set, right?
Market here. I don't agree with that.
The price is set.
The price is very set. It's set to the processors. I have been farming since 2011. I started from scratch. I started with 13 cows. I borrowed $550,000, all borrowed money. Bought quota. It was my dream to farm. My dad never touched a cow or a tractor in his life. And I do believe in the system. What I was going to say, and this is important. Well, first of all, in the U.S., they have a similar system now in a lot of states. So it's very ironic.
Oh, interesting.
The quota does not have the value that our quota has, or hasn't yet. And it really ebbs and flows because the processor there controls the quota. So by us, it's our government that has kind of implemented this quota system.
Why is there value on quota in the first place? Why couldn't it have just been like...
The minute something's limited, there's value. It's no different than a taxi cab license in New York City. They had
but when they implemented quota however many years ago in Canada,
it had very little value.
Very little value.
Yes. But as people started to realize that, hey, you got to make any time in a business that you're guaranteed to make a margin, you're guaranteed to get paid, that has value.
Yeah.
Like run a real business for a while. That's one thing that some dairy farmers who have not, like lots of dairy farmers run other businesses and are very astute. Some business farmers have only ever been in dairy. They don't understand how amazing it is to have that milk check show up in your account twice a month. It's like the sun coming up. It's that reliable.
Yeah.
And because I'm in other businesses where people owe me a lot of money for a very long time and some people don't pay, you appreciate supply management more.
Makes sense.
So I guess, there's two pieces. One is they have it in the U.S. too. So U.S. producers that get fired up and talk about wanting to flood our market. First of all, our market's tiny. It's not an effective, efficient market. Like Canada is
90% of people live within 100 kilometers of the U.S. border. And
but they still live spread out over 5,000 kilometers and it's less than the population is less than the state of California. So like for them to think that there's any benefit to come wiping out our milk market's ridiculous. And they'll still never look after the northern parts of the province, right?
Yeah.
So, our system does do that. And the other thing is milk is a perishable item. So it's not like a grain, even a grain farmer, they used to have the grain the elevator, people were happy they got rid of that system. But grain you could store for a whole year and you could sell it the next year. Well, milk is just like, it's got to be on the shelf. I won't say the wrong amount of time, but very quickly, right? It's passed.
Okay. Moving on.
Talking about quota.
I can
I'm
tell.
very passionate about supply management. Well, because it takes a lot of flack, and I see the benefits and the negatives. Okay,
you know what I find?
I think I feel like I'm pretty objective.
When Maxime Bernier ran for the Conservative Party a couple of years ago, and the amount of farmers that came out of the woodworks and got interested in politics. Because they thought maybe their supply
they thought they had to start voting for the Liberal Party or NDP at that point, and they were like, "What is
abortion?" Didn't get them that fired up, but when you start
they thought
the money,
they were going to touch the quota. Watch out! Ooh, that's a hard word for the Christian conservative dairy farmers. That's awesome.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help a lot in creating more content, improving the quality of the content, putting the production value, getting more guests on, and me being able to spend more time and energy towards it. So if you're interested in doing that, you can click up here and it'll take you to a support page. But you can also subscribe to the podcast by clicking over here and doing that. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.